Hi everyone, my name is Garnette O'Connell. My adventures that happen, I finally know someone who can get those into books. Her name is Allison. I've always wanted to get my adventures written in books, and now that I know Allison, she can do that for me. She's going to be doing a book reading. It's part of a series called The Adventures of a Mermaid, and the book she's reading this time is called The Rat Prophecy. This is part 5. Everyone, I am the Esperanza243, and today you are watching, because you are enjoying the book, The Rat Prophecy. I am super stoked that I'm reading more of The Rat Prophecy. It's one of my favorite books. I should say this is my favorite book series. It's a book series of 4. And the 4th book is actually a spin-off, which I think is really a really good one, but I think I need to lengthen it. Anyways, the book series I call The Adventures of a Mermaid, and The Rat Prophecy is the 2nd book in the series. Oh geez, I'm going cuckoo. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the book, really. What happened in the previous reading, which was 2 weeks ago. I'm going to say that one more time. I'm reading these books every other week. So this week, it's The Rat Prophecy. Next week will be Ashlyn's Dream Come True. And, because Halloween is coming up, the week of Halloween, which is the week before Halloween Day, the Halloween week, I am going to read sections of one of my ghost books, which is the one that I decided to choose was Not a Family Trait. It's actually one of my favorites, and I'm also actually reading that on my radio show. I put my social media links in the description box in my previous video, but I'll go ahead and do that for this one too, that way you guys know what's going on. What happened in the previous video was Garnette showing off Aquatica to her new mermaid friend, Ariel. She even talks to Kelly and Jesse of the situation going on at the mermaid, the dancers club / restaurant. When she and Ariel reach Aquatica, she kind of tours her off to this psychic that she knows, Darla Tateston. And they had some seaweed tea, which is also used for tea reading to see what's going on in their past or their future or anything like that, which is pretty cool. But that's actually where we stopped, actually. Ariel got to meet both her aunt and her mom, her birth mom. And I think that's actually where I'm going to go ahead and start reading. Is that everything that I brought up, though? Yeah, I think that's everything. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start reading. By the way, if there is any transition between the lightness in the background to a darker tone later on, because my battery died and I had to charge the camcorder. The psychic picked up the mermaid's empty teacup. She observed inside it and sighed. Her lips turned down into a frown. "Oh dear," she whispered. "What can you read?" Amethyst wondered. The psychic mermaid looked up. "She has a troubled past." She paused to read more from the tea reading. "It will catch up to her, and it has affected her." She cocked her head to the side. "She's a good person, and talented, too." Darla sighed once more. "Ariel is not a descendant of a mer-person." Yikes. Wait, what does that mean? Then how does she become a mermaid? Amber asked worriedly. Darla turned the cup in an angle. She knew there had to be more. And there it was. It made her disappointed and sad. "It doesn't say. but I can see that her troubled past started as an orphan," she whispered. She paused. "I can tell she'll have more adventure than Garnette." Meanwhile, Garnette guided her new friend to the underwater castle. "Were you serious about enjoying the seaweed tea?" "Yes, I was," Ariel giggled. "It tastes better than the other teas I've experimented with, and that's saying something." "What I love about seaweed tea even more is that it can be used for tea reading." "Tea reading? Really?" She became curious and worried at the same time. She looked at Garnette. "Do you think that woman looked at my tea after we left?" "Probably. Darla likes to see what past or future a new friend has." She smiled. "It amazes me sometimes what she can do." Garnette shrugged. "It makes me wonder what magic and abilities I'll get." She gasped. "Oh, that reminds me. What's the object that Keaton has? Maybe my uncle will help." "I thought that's why we visited Darla first," Ariel said in confusion. Garnette smiled knowingly. "I wanted you to meet her first before my uncle." They turned as they continued swimming to the castle. "The same way I did when I first came to Aquatica. There's even a chance you'll—" "Garnette?" Ezra called out. They stopped swimming. Garnette glanced around. "Hey, you're back!" She turned toward the voice. A huge grin spread across her face. Her eyes grew wide with excitement. Ariel immediately saw the change in her expression. "Ezra! I was hoping you were close by." They hugged and spun around together. He replied after pulling away. "Of course I would. I live near the castle, remember?" "How could I forget?" She rolled her eyes playfully as she giggled. He smiled in response. Ezra then saw the mermaid next to her. "Who is this?" "This is Ariel. Ariel, this is Ezra. He's my uncle's advisor and a great friend." "Great friend, huh?" She eyed Garnette. "I'm sure she thinks of him more than a friend," she thought. "Where are you two heading?" "We're actually going to the throne room. I'm hoping Uncle Adelais could help us with a problem we have on land." "Well, you're in luck. He's not in the throne room right now, and I know where he is. He's out back dealing with the Scrat and the Smelt. The two have been quarreling again." Ezra rolled his eyes. "Again?" She giggled. "Why not stick the salmon on them, as always?" "That's what I said!" he exclaimed. He laughed. "Come on, follow me." The two mermaids followed him. They swam throughout the castle to reach the king. Ariel couldn't stop admiring everything. She knew right away when they entered Aquatica that she had missed out on a lot. She made a mental note to visit more when she could. "This definitely gives me a push to sleep in the ocean more," Ariel thought. They stopped swimming, causing Ariel to look around. She saw a big, muscular merman with golden gray hair. She even saw a gold crown upon his head. She held her breath for a moment. Ariel could feel goosebumps all over her arms. King Adelais turned as a salmon swam fast toward the Scrat and the Smelt. They stopped quarreling and swam away as fast as they could. The king shook his head lightly as he chuckled. He saw Ezra and Garnette right then. "Ah, my dear niece, welcome back," he said with a smile and a deep voice. She swam to him and hugged him. He hugged back. "How are you doing, my dear?" "Much better, now that I've seen you and Ezra." She smiled after pulling away. "How are you, Uncle?" "I am doing well." He saw Ariel next to her. "And may I ask who this charming mermaid is?" He lightly took her hand and kissed it. Ariel blushed. "Hello, Your Majesty." She bowed shyly. "This is my friend, Ariel. We were hoping you could help us, Uncle." "Follow me, then. He guided them to a private area while Ezra went back to work. King Adelais stopped and turned toward Ariel and his niece. Now, what could you possibly want my help for?
Are you familiar with objects, Uncle? The ones about them representing family magic, I mean.
He widened his eyes with pleasant surprise. Why, yes, I am. You know, I have forgotten about that. I was supposed to teach Karina about her object the day she left. It was quiet as he and Garnette had an awkward moment. Many years ago, one of his firstborn nieces loved going to the water surface and watched the ships going by. That one night she went up to the surface, her crab friend, Quentin, told her uncle what she had done. On top of not needing him for something important, he created a storm, which made a ship sink. Her uncle stopped her from saving the men by turning her human and sending her to what is now the shore of Virginia. There was only one backside. She would never remember her life before that night and never become a mermaid again. Sadly, only the memory of that night and her pain of him abandoning her became a trait to her descendants, at least those of true mermaid blood. Uncle Adelais did the same thing to himself, that he wouldn't remember that night, but he did remember the pain of betraying his belief and her. No one deserves a life with no memory of who he or she is. The memory of that night flooded his mind once more. He shook his head softly to get it out. He cleared his throat and looked at his niece and her friend.
Your Majesty, may I ask something?
Ariel asked, breaking the silence.
I think you just did,
Garnette teased. Ariel stuck her tongue out. She laughed. Adelais shook his head with a smile. He chuckled. His chuckles were deep. It sounded like someone's stomach growling. You may, Ariel. What is on your mind?
What do you think could happen if a mortal has one of those objects and can control what people say?
His brows narrowed in confusion. What do you mean by that? How could a mortal control what people say?
It's part of the reason I need help. There's a job I have on land. My boss, he has this weird hold on me and my coworkers. I don't understand how he got it, but he uses these keywords to make us do and say anything. He's even erased my memory of asking for my object back. I don't know what to do, Your Majesty.
Have you seen Miss Darla yet? Did you try asking her?
I don't think it crossed our minds while we were there, Your Majesty. Garnette and I were enjoying ourselves in her presence, especially with her family there,
she said with a smile. She looked at her friend.
She thought I would want to meet her first before you, like she did.
She moved her gaze back to King Adelais. His brows rose with curiosity. May I ask why she thought that?
Ariel sighed. Because, surprisingly, I have never been to Aquatica before.
His eyes widened.
I know, Your Majesty. I was just as surprised when I learned of the city yet today.
Today? How long have you been a mermaid, Miss Ariel?
I believe since I was a baby, but... But what?
Garnette wondered. Ariel sighed once more.
I don't think I was born a mermaid.
The king and his niece, curious as they were, widened their eyes in shock. She shook her head.
It's too hazy for me to remember. It all happened days after my parents died.
She paused to think.
I know it was dark.
That was when Garnette came up with an idea.
Perhaps going back to Darla's will help. Remember when she and I told you not to stare at her walls too long?
Her friend nodded.
Well, it's because those swirls are enchanted. Anyone who falls asleep to those swirls faces any problem their subconscious is afraid of. At least that's my theory. Theory?
Garnette thought before she spoke. Her uncle observed the princess.
Most of the mer people who have fallen asleep at Darla's would dream of their fears, whether it's the worst or not. and they would wake feeling they conquered that fear. The others, though, well, they would dream of their past, or past lives. I'm one of them, actually. When I fell asleep to those swirls, I dreamed of a memory from one of my ancestors.
And that led her to me, eventually. Adelais spoke. The particular ancestor is one of my nieces.
Ariel glanced at Garnette. Boy, you weren't kidding when you said he's your uncle.
Garnette is right. Perhaps when you are under the swirl's enchantment, you'll dream of your past. It may unlock some mysteries.
He paused for a moment.
Adelais chuckled. I can tell that's not what you came to talk about. This man has your object, you say?
Ariel nodded. He thought for a few moments.
These keywords you speak of, do they have effect on him as well?
I don't know. They do, Garnette answered. When I asked when Ariel was hired, I used those words, and he replied right away.
Ariel had a sudden brainstorm.
Then if I use those words on him about my object, he'll tell me where it is, she said excitedly. Oh, wouldn't it be awesome if that works?
It would, but if Garnette used those words on him, he might be prepared.
He looked at his niece.
What do you think, dear?
It is possible. Ariel and I will think of a backup plan in case he does. She turned to Ariel. Right now, though, it's probably time to figure out what it is about your past that's messing with your memory. Are you sure? I don't think I'm ready for that, she said nervously. What else would you like to do? Garnette asked. It became quiet as she thought. I don't know. I just don't want to do it yet. It's too soon. After seeing all this.
There is that to consider, dear Nettie.
King Adelais pointed a fact.
I do not mean to be against your idea, but Ariel has learned a great deal of things today. Perhaps you should wait a day or so.
But what until then? Ariel asked, looking at her friend. We think of a way to get your item back. Ariel sighed. I suppose so. I don't think I can handle being under his thumb anymore. We have to get the shell from him. As Garnette raised a brow, the mermaid bit her lip. You mean that's finally knocked in your head after a year?
Garnette, I need to speak with you before you leave.
She nodded. I'll see you later, Ariel. Promise, she said with a smile. Ariel smiled in response and swam away. Garnette looked at her uncle. What is it, Uncle Adelais?
After you brought up the objects, I remembered I was supposed to give Karina one the day she and I parted.
Yeah, you said that. Her uncle sighed.
I have noticed how responsible you are lately, and you are close of age.
She narrowed her brows. What are you getting at, Uncle?
I believe it is time for you to receive your object.
Her eyes widened. Are you sure? I mean, I'm not that responsible, and I'm only 16. I can't even get my own apartment.
I believe you are ready, Garnette.
He saw her biting her lower lip in excitement. She blushed.
Ezra?
It took a minute, but Ezra soon swam to his side.
Yes, your majesty.
He bowed to the king.
Could you get Karina's locket for me, please?
Garnette gasped as Ezra smiled.
Yes, your majesty.
He bowed to him again. He then swam away to get the locket. Originally, every mermaid or merman has an individual object. Each object possesses a power that represents either who he or she is, or the talents the merperson was born with. Since Karina never got hers, King Adelais thought her locket should not go to waste. Besides, the locket's powers would help Garnette in her adventures. By touching it with a finger or hand, she could astral project with a thought. By opening it, she could bring something to her with a thought. Garnette couldn't wait to see what the locket looked like as she thought about her mermaid friend. She wondered what she was doing.
Meanwhile, Ariel swam around Aquatica. She wanted to find her way back to the mainland, but she couldn't stop admiring the underwater city. Ariel looked at everything absent-mindedly. She accidentally bumped into Miss Darla.
Oh, my apologies.
She glanced at her. Why, hello, Miss Ariel. Darla smiled politely.
Hi, Miss Tayton.
She smiled. I told you, Miss Ariel. Down here we use first names. Please, call me Darla. Ariel chuckled nervously. She shrugged.
I guess that's going to take me a while. I'm used to respecting people older than me.
Miss Darla raised a brow. That is definitely a good thing. Would you like to swim with me?
Sure, I'd like that.
They swam toward Darla's cove. I am curious, what with you being polite, who raised you?
Well, up till I was about 5, it's all a bit hazy. I became an orphan at that age.
She cocked her head, trying to recall her childhood.
I wish I could remember.
Sometimes you have to leave the past behind you, dear.
I know,
she said quietly.
But sometimes I wonder if I should know. I can't seem to remember my parents at all.
Ariel then realized this was a great time to bring in what Garnette told her.
That reminds me. Garnette told me that your seaweed tea is also used for tea readings. Is that true?
And that is where I'm going to stop. Oh, good grief. My throat is getting dry. I can barely talk. Man, that is a lot of stuff. But at least you guys get to learn about the objects that I've been trying to bring up to you guys. Oh man, I would love to know what my object would be. Probably a pen. No, it would... I don't know what it would be. I wonder what my mermaid object would be. I want to know what kind of tail I would have, though. I kind of already imagined what kind of tail I would get, but it's just, as far as, if I really was a mermaid. But I've actually been trying to figure out what kind of tail I would want if I was going to make my own mermaid tail. I'd rather have someone make it for me, though, because I want to look like an authentic mermaid, not just, someone who uses their knees and looks like a fake mermaid, I'd rather look authentic and swim like an actual mermaid than look like a really stupid person who doesn't know how to make a mermaid tail. No, sorry, that's judging. I take that back. I mean, most people really do know how to make a mermaid tail, especially those who can't afford to buy someone, and especially those who can't afford to pay someone to make a tail for them. A lot of people end up having to use, sweaters or... Like, my mom has slippers, not a monofin, but... Actually, wait, I think she does have a monofin. I don't know. Eventually, though, I'd like to have flippers, if not a monofin. A monofin is where it has your feet together, and it's like one big fin, rather than just flippers like a scuba diver. Yeah. I would like to get a monofin. I would rather... Again, I would want my mermaid tail to look authentic, so I don't want my feet to stick out like most people do with their handcrafted mermaid tails. I want to look like an actual mermaid, not a cheaply made tail. Again, that's judging, but I can't help it! Ugh. Well, unfortunately, that is it for today, everyone. I had a lot of fun reading this book to you all. I hope you are enjoying it as well, as much as I am, I should say. Next week will be Ashlyn's Dream Come True. We're really getting close to finishing that book, actually. I think it's 2 more weeks? Yeah, 2 more weeks. Then we're done with Ashlyn's Dream Come True. I don't know what book will be after that. But as I said, I'm going to, for the Halloween week, not the actual Halloween day, but the Halloween week before that, I'm going to be reading Not a Family Trait. It's one of my favorite ghost stories. I think you might like it. I'm just going to read sections of it, though. I'm not going to read the whole book. I'm just going to read sections of it. Probably all in one video. If not, I'll try to break it up. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you all have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. I am the Esperanza 3, signing out.